So as I've shown in previous videos, I've been kind of struggling with making a stateful widget that returns basically with a build function that returns a widget. And my last successful thing was a macro with a build expression, which then uh, gets made into a function. But yeah, the problem with that is you can't really pass in any parameters. So I've been trying with an approach that actually works with a closure, but the problem there is I needed to use some unstable features. And yeah, my last attempt crashed the compiler. So now to make progress, I've implemented a stateful widget that is very dynamic, which is basically the function you pass in gets a handler, which you can then call .widget on with a widget, and it will take any widget, yeah, as long as its state is static, essentially. And yeah, what it internally does is with the different methods on widget, it yeah, it builds the structure of the handler, which is two nested enums. The exact details aren't that important, but basically it's it's very dynamic. So its own state is a box of any, which then gets just if it matches, that's great, and if it doesn't, in the update step, the new one gets initialized. So you can actually switch out the widgets if you wish. Yeah. So this is basically just so I can make progress without getting myself stuck at the previous problem. I think at some point I'll get back to this and find a better solution. Maybe also just with future features in Rust, this will get easier. Right, so today we'll try to make the dropdown, which is currently just a fixed, its content is fixed. So if we go back to here and do a dropdown, I think yeah. I think that's it. Then we can see that we're basically just, yeah, there's just a fixed set of options, and sometimes it crashes because there's a bug. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how I've managed to get it to crash. Must be some life cycle issue. Yeah, alright, so basically we're gonna now, with the dynamic stateful widget, gonna try to make it actually accept a parameter. Right, so first step will be to change this to the new stateful widget, which right, so this is a macro, so we're gonna use super. Currently, I've called the module Dyn stateful widget because the other one still exists, but yeah, actually doesn't matter too much. Right. So I think we should pretty straightforwardly be able to convert this. What are the parameters? Yeah, just a build, but probably. Oh yeah, right. So you can like hint at the type of the state in the handler. Right. So it would be H, which is a stateful widget handler. Of E and bool, right? Right, so we have to, I think in general, probably the best pattern here would be to assign widget to a variable and then pass that to the handler. Just because if you reference state in creating the widget, I think it makes problems with the handler potentially because you need to get the state from the handler as well. Although in this case with a boolean, that wouldn't be a problem. So actually, we can go. Yeah. By the way, I'm trying out this NVim based, NeoVim based thing called. What was it? Astro NVim, I think. Right, and yeah, so I'm kind of still struggling with the key bindings. Right, so dot widget. And right, so open we can assign instead of widget. So we can go let open equal h dot state, which returns. Right, so I think that would make problems if we don't dereference it here. Cannot move. Yeah. Right, because we're using, so we're borrowing state here, and this also uses h. So we're borrowing h, and so that's why, like, that, because a boolean is a copy type, so it's not a problem. Maybe that already works. Yeah. So by the way, in this case, like currently the way pop-up works is like the pop-up, the actual content of the pop-up is an option. So if it's not open, it's none. But I guess with this style of stateful widget, we could actually just like do an if and just a text button. And well, but then the text button wouldn't save its state. So this is still better. Yeah. Right. So, do we actually need type hints here? Well, let's first go see if it still works. Yep, still works. and still crashes. Actually, let's go figure out what that is. In pop-up 133, so pop-up. So the assumption is that if self.popup is sum, then it must also have the associated state, right? So the state must also be sum. Ooh. Huh. Why are we dropping anything here? Does this actually do anything? We I guess because it borrows self, but probably that's like not necessary with non-lexical lifetimes, so let's just remove that. Right, so I guess this invariant doesn't hold. Let's see what that could be about. So build. So we're forcing in update. If update gets called, then like if it's already sum, then it stays sum, and otherwise it gets assigned to sum. Alright, I don't see the problem. What's this about? Like, is the idea that it just shouldn't? Pop-up state is... Oh, that's already a... yeah, that's a mutable reference, so it just gets coerced, I guess. Okay, so let's like try and see what this is really about. Like, okay, just clicking around, it seems. So, like, an option would be that it's like in the main. It's a problem in the main contraption that like runs the code, which is this is our window handler. Yeah. So like maybe we're not updating in all cases properly. Okay, we're rendering after, like this should make sure update. Either update or build gets run. So right, was for render. But our error was in 133, which is which is input pos layer, which would be, is that the only place we call it? No mouse, so in all of the mouse handling stuff. State. So I guess we don't do update here. Ah, I see. So we've handled input, and probably if we just click fast enough, those happen in sequence, and then like the state is gone or something, like before the re-render happened. So if we like, or what, uh, is clicking really fast. Yeah, so I guess like it's just with this contraption not guaranteed that an update gets run between two input handling frames essentially. But yeah, I think we can actually ignore that for now. Right. So the drop down. Now I'm wondering whether I still need that. Ah, right. Okay, so yeah, I do. um, it's interesting that it can't infer that, but yeah, I don't know exactly why. So I guess instead of, I don't want to take an array here because yeah, I think an iterator should suffice. So let's, I guess there's items. Let's start with that. Maybe we'll do infiltrate for now. We can either do into iterator or just iterator plus clone. I don't know what is better. Let's go for, yeah, for iterator. I don't know. Iterator. Where item equals, so I guess an item has an internal identifier plus a string it gets displayed as. Well, it could also be a widget maybe, but we'll ignore that for now. Let's say it's just like strings. So it would be a pair of, like, one would be a, well, just a string. Is that already like cos? Yeah. Anonymous lifetime. So we need, it needs to be static anyway, because currently our text button needs a static string, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, unnecessary parentheses. This is actually funny because that doesn't get interpreted as a tuple. Only if I put a comma, it gets interpreted as a tuple. But in most cases, it doesn't matter because you don't need one item tuples that often. So let's say we have a lifetime. No, why life? No, we have an item type, which let's say that's I. Just so. And let's say that emits an I. So on click, we can like trigger an action or something. Right. Let's let's map over items. Yeah, it must also be clone. So dot clone items may not live long enough, so that will meet its requirement. May not live long enough. Why may it not live long enough? Let's look at the actual error message. May outlive borrowed values items. Right. So well, I guess we can move. Yeah. Right. So we can then, like, I guess, destructure ident or something and label. Where's there? Right, so this would be a label. And let's like ignore that for now. And this would also be where we like choose the active, or like call a callback that gets passed in for changing the active one, basically. Right, so let's see if that works. So let's say we pass in, or maybe into iterator would be better, just like for cases where it's, let's say we do numbers. Or now this isn't right. So dot iter, I guess. Type mismatch. Ah, found reference. Well, could we iter maybe into iter? Does something different? Seems to. Okay. Nice. Alright, so we should now be able to add, first of all, let's like make this a multi-line thing. So for the selected one, I guess the widget like doesn't care what the identifier is, so we can just like I don't know, let's say selected is just string. Right, and then we would have an on select, which takes an fn that takes an and mute e and an identifier, I guess. Yeah. Oh, that would have to be an impl unused variable. So we should be able to call that now. On select with e dot 1 and ident cannot move. Right. So we can either force ident to be copy or make it just a reference, I guess. Yeah, right, let's make it a reference. But it borrows ident, which is... Do we have to borrow it here already? Maybe? Function... Wait. So we're mapping. So we're returning a flex item that... Uh, right. Closure may outlive... do we have to move here maybe? So items gives us like an owned value. And we produce a text button which has a closure that uses it. Closure may outlive the current function, but it borrows ident, which is owned by the current function. So yeah, it kinda sounds like we would have to move it. Why doesn't that work? Well, I guess if we move... What's the problem with moving exactly? Do we use stuff from outside? The trait bound, because it needs to be clone. Is it not clone if we use move? That seems weird. Well, I mean... So what if we... just call this item and go item.1 and item.0. Clone is not set, so there's an... Does this have a clone bound? So this needs to be clone. Which... So why is this not clone? We cloned this iterator and... so the move is still there. Alright. Yeah, I guess the move just makes it not copyable. Although shouldn't map be clonable? function.0, which is owned by the current function. So yeah, 1 isn't a problem because we're not using it in this one. Right. So what if we use 1 for something? Just like, I don't know, assign a variable to it. So probably invoking it would be enough. Oh, it's the map itself. So a move here. Shouldn't that be sufficient? Let's see in case of strings, I guess. Okay, I see. The problem is that the other one isn't clone, so the closure isn't clone. Or something like that. So what are the exact constraints? Can I go to definition? So map returns a map. Why can't I? Okay. So I'm guessing right. Like it seems to me that map should be clonable. That like an iterator of type map should just be clonable, like irrespective of whether the item it returns is clonable. Because when you clone it and then like run it, like it runs the function again, doesn't it? So that seems weird. So that works. Why does that? No, 0, right. So we can't try. So borrowing it. Wait, why does that work? Why does that trigger the error but not assigning it to a variable? I mean, sure, the variable probably gets optimized out, but I would think it should still trigger the error. So impl the function isn't clone. And so if okay, I see, that's the problem. That makes way more sense. So if we wanna make this iterator here clonable, we can't reference a function in it that isn't clonable. Right. Well, I mean, can we just borrow it? I mean, that seems weird, but a reference to it should be. So maybe let's just, for testing, make this a reference hidden type. Does not appear in bounds. Okay. So let's say we do let unselect equal reference to unselect. Okay, that works. So we call it with item.0. Why is that necessary? Maybe because the move. Maybe if we... So that should break again. But now that probably means something different. But no. Well, I guess then we'll just do that. Wait, so that needs to be moved? Because we're like just borrowing. Wait, let's go back to having these be what was I calling it? Ident and label. So that would be label, and that would be ident. Well, what if I reference it here? Cannot return value referencing. Ah, right, yeah, of course it would make sense that it needs to be move. Because, yeah, that thing actually gets returned, so like it needs to move this into it. Okay, so that works. Now we need a selected argument. For now, we'll just do, I don't know, 0, and on select we do e and ident and do nothing. Okay, see if it still works. Yeah, now we want to be able to actually select something. So we, yeah, I guess we actually need a stateful widget here. So we, so I guess let's move that in here. Let's say that's the widget or something. Format. That we don't need. And then we can start actually doing some. So I guess in this case the state would be an, let's just for simplicity make it an int, and like we know it's only 0, 1 or 2, so we can go e dot dot 0 equals I. Type annotations needed, sure, as always. Would be and mute first the U8, yeah, and then the runtime. Of course, we need to dereference here. Found integer. Ah, yes. Ah, now this will make problems. Since we, well, I mean, I guess we can just hint it here. Found. Ah, so maybe that's not the problem. Yeah, we get a reference. So we can we dematch it here already? Can we go? I mean, sure. That's weird, but I think it would be easier to understand if we, yeah, just also dereference here. Is that still needed? No. Let's remove that import. Let's see if there should be an action. Action merge imports or remove the whole use item. Sure. Okay, but it leaves the line there. Alright. So now we only need to, now obviously in real use cases that would work differently, but let's say we match age dot state actually we'd want to match the referenced version just for right. So if it's 0 0, if it's 1 it's 1 and otherwise it's 2. It's 2. It's a bit silly, but yeah. So that should work now. So 0, 1. Nice. So I guess we could just do a little silly thing of well, I mean, I guess we could do like if it's 3 or let's say 255, it's please select. I guess that would be more an option usually, but doesn't matter here. Let's put that on top, and then we can. No, it uses default, so we can't. Well, then I guess let's make it an option. So the default thing, I think at some point it'll make more sense to have an init state function as well, just so it doesn't like unnecessarily. Yeah, because I think in many cases you'll want an init state that's not default, I guess. But we'll actually have to see in practice, because if in practice it's always custom types, then you can also just implement default for them. Right, so I guess let's do if it's none, and in the other cases, wait, alright, how does I should be able to block. No, how do I block insert? Is that even a yeah, I think it's a thing. No. Ah, it is a thing. Alright. It just doesn't display until you're done. Which, sure. Right, so right, this is wrong because it needs to be some here as well. Some and then the state would be, why did it right. option. All right. Yeah. So now the default state is please select, and then you can't unselect again, but you can crash it. All right. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Bye.